Hello, everybody. So, welcome again. And today I have the pleasure and the honor of being with Baba Kaunamujamal. Did I get your last name correct?
You got it.
All right, awesome. Yes. So I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you for being here.
Yay.
Yeah. And what we're going to be talking about is love.
Mm.
Simple
Yay.
point. Kind of the point of all of this, right? And before we start, I just want to tell people a tiny bit about you. So, uh, you go by Baba?
Yes, that's what everyone called me.
Baba.
Yeah, and Baba just simply means father. It's just a title given to any adult male.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Baba is a therapist, counselor, African dance instructor, theater coach, set designer, storyteller, creative writers coach, inspirer, and lover of life.
Mm.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Yay.
for that.
Yes.
So, when I invited you to be part of this symposium, talking about the healing of gender and sexuality, you said, I asked you, what would you like to speak on? And you're very clear you want to speak about love.
Mm.
um,
Mm.
so, yeah, just start there. What calls to you about love? Like, what is that for you? Why are you drawn to?
Yeah. So before we even get into it in depth, would you mind if we just open up with a
Oh
talk
yeah,
to the universe? Some people
totally.
call it prayer.
Absolutely.
So
Go
this is
ahead.
just my way of reaching out, taking a deep breath in and release. Again, breathing in and release. One more, breathing in and release. Give thanks, Source. Give thanks for this blessed moment, this blessed opportunity. Giving thanks for your love, your guidance, and protection. Hands are up as a spirit of surrendering and being in a space of allowing just gratitude to guide this whole process and allowing not my words to be spoken, but it be spoken only through the heart of love. And so, in that space of knowing, in that space of being, humbled in this very moment, say, give thanks for your love, your guidance, and protection. So it is in love, and so shall always be. Together we say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Just simply means, so be it. Mahalo. Yay.
Mm,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah. My reason of choosing this subject, I'm speaking for myself, one, but I kind of feel it's a universal knowing. It is to share, to speak on love for me is my existence. It's for me. I understand for some it's something that some people seek, some people desire it. For some, it's a holy grail. For some, people journey across the globe, the world, to have an idea, to experience it in some ways. However, I have come to a knowing for myself that it is who I am, and everything that I look at, even down to material, down to plant life, to breathing in this moment, being with you, is all created from the same essence. And I feel as though, over a period of time, based upon quote unquote humanity, from the spirit realm, we've taken on these birthday suits, and we showed up in different aspects in terms of colors and genders and things of that sort. But that which chose to show up, and some people will call it the spirit world, have borrowed these birthday suits. Um, there's so many stories that has, I feel as though over a period of time, that has governed the process of the spirit, that has also created an illusion that we think that is something that is outside of us. And so therefore we go on the seeking, the journeys, and trying to find, but every time you look in the mirror, I feel very strong to say that it's staring you right in the face. So for me, um, I had to humble myself in a lot of those spaces of awarenesses that kind of they all spoke the same languages, different modalities, but getting to listen and sitting at the feet of so many quote unquote wise ones, and the wisest ones who I've really sat at the feet of. I mean, the wisest of the wisest have been babies.
Oh.
They come in the world with innocent perception. And I feel as though they come with a message, depending on the message that is being given, and then the feedback from us on this side, that they're freshly coming from the other side. I feel as though that the stories that are being told puts blockages away from being that source, quote unquote. Some people use the word God. I struggle with that. I feel as though it's been abused. But source, the creator, I feel as though all the many stories that is put in front of that pushes you further and further away from knowing that that is who you are. So on this journey that we call life, I feel as though our journey, our process is disintegrating those stories in front that has created the blockage to get back to the self.
So I'm curious to hear if you want to share. I'm curious to hear your story or your journey, or what brought you to this place of,
growing up, born and raised, Baltimore City, East Coast, born and raised, two-parent household, definitely lived in, quote unquote, if you hear me use the word global minority and global majority, that is regarding to race. I'm stepping away from the use of black and white. I feel as though the world is filled with the global majority, and the global minority are the ones who have taken control of the global majority.
Yeah.
So,
I see what you're saying. Oh,
yeah. And this is awareness. I was blessed to hear this from a dear friend on. I feel as though she's a friend because I listen to her on a regular basis on Sirius XM Urban View, Karen Hunter. But anyway, that was her way of explaining what I heard. That's ooh, I like that, like you just did. Like, ooh, I like that. So anyway, being raised up in the global majority neighborhood, there was definitely duality based upon how society has promoted it, and also coming from a culture that is, quote unquote, the enslaved people brought to this country. So there was a lot of demise, there was a lot of discomfort as a child that I witnessed and saw. However, one thing that was consistent in my family was love. And I have 7 siblings, and 7 siblings, and
8 of you all together.
Yes. and the pleasure of visiting grandma during the summers down in Virginia, stay there for the whole summer. You get to learn to farm, you get to learn how to chase animals and all those things. But coming back into the city, there was always this spirit of duality. Each time I would go with her, it was a different reality. Even being around the global minority, there was this country life, something about nature just had his way of handling you without even questioning it. Being in the cornfields and running down into the streams and getting chased by bees and horses, and something about just mama nature. So growing up, my mom a Christian, she was a Baptist, and my father was aware of religions, but he never agreed to them. He had an issue with preachers, and it was interesting, his background, his stories about it. However, they were very loving, and they had some struggles. So coming up in that household created curiosity for me, especially when I heard the name Jesus being spoken. I was curious about that particular person in a way that I asked for guidance, and I didn't know that I could do that. And so in asking for guidance, I ended up into a lot of awareness around this particular being. I felt as though that particular being was being misrepresented. And to the point where I saw others giving recognition to a being who was saying, giving recognition to yourself.
Wow.
And as time went on, information just started dropping in. So the more I got curious about that particular being, I stopped calling him Jesus. I said, why not just call him by the name that he was known as, Yeshua ben Joseph. So I started using that name, but what was the beautiful part of sitting in that space, I feel, in my space of awareness, other doors, because there was authenticity about using that name that opened other doors to other great awarenesses and quote unquote masters who harness not just that energy, but that space of knowing. And so I also began to understand for me what was quote unquote the Christ, and understanding the firstborn. To me, my awareness jumped into the space of the firstborn with consciousness of the light that is inside of you, that is labeled as the Christ, not someone outside of you. And so when I identified that, oh snap, that's in me. This is what you've been saying the whole time. Like, are you kidding me? And being so conditioned, I realized that all of the challenges that I was having in my life, I was creating them. But I also created a lot of joy, but I was so conditioned to the disturbances and addiction to conflict that it was like, this is going to be a lot of work to get rid of. You shared something a little earlier, how a lightning went through you, and you felt this shift. One day, I remember hanging out with some quote unquote young, it was a group of us, and we was up to no good. And spirit hit me so deep. We're walking and it said, go home. And I looked around at them, and without even hesitation, I said, I'm going home. And they said, for what? And they got kind of a little irate with me. I said, no, I'm not going, and I turned around. It was freezing outside, and I didn't even know why I was going home, but it was clear. It was like something hit me in my heart, And later on that day, 1 died and 2 were arrested.
Oh.
And I went, wow.
Oh.
Give thanks I listened.
Oh, yeah.
So in that space of awareness for me, it's that opened up a door, and then my curiosity of my culture, African culture, I began to learn about shamans and mystics and how they journeyed. And as I got deep and deep into my work not in my work, but once I began to discover my gifts and talents into theater and storytelling and drumming, eventually I ended up with my own company. But prior to that, in the process of, I began to travel. I began to work with a lot of kids, and there was no holds bar with kids. Kids are they'll walk up to you and go, well, you have a boogie hanging out of your nose. You know what I mean? You go, oh, wow. Just.
Why do you look like that?
Yeah. And I was like, wow. So children, my mom was an educator, a teacher's assistant, and she always worked with kids. She was the quote unquote the motherhood mom. Her mother was the exact same way. And so naturally, all of my siblings, we just love kids. And so I volunteered in a daycare center when I was 16 years old. And then I worked at a daycare center at 16. Then I volunteered at a place that's called New Era. And that's where I began to learn about my gifts and talents, where I started teaching drumming. I'm learning drumming, learning dancing and choreography. So from that space, it just grew into being an adult, which began to send me on tours, my trips to Africa, sitting with mystics and shamans. But then from there, I learned from Upanishads. I've gone to set with Muslims. I've set with Hebrew Israelites. I've set with homeless people. The disappointing part that I learned about being around, for me, was disappointing, was being around Muslims and Christians. I learned, and the Rastafarians, and I had dreadlocks down to here at one point. But being in all of those different modalities, I learned more about duality amongst them than I did just being around children in life. Because of duality, I learned that in the Christianity, you had the Protestants, you had the Baptists, you had Episcopal, and they were separate, right? Yet they were saying the same thing, reading the same book. I went amongst the Muslims, and you had the Ansar Muslims, you had the Nation of Islam, you had all of these different sects, and there was separation, So it was just interesting just to see duality, but yet everybody is saying the exact same thing.
Yep.
Understanding how duality existed in this society, because it was all about power. It was about controlling another race of people, which also classes of people, to keep a certain awareness to, quote unquote, those in power. And when I began to understand that that isn't real power, that is insecurity.
Yeah.
The real power that I learned was truly in love, because I could sit and mix with all of them and walk away and develop me.
That's beautiful. Amazing.
Yeah, that's why I call you my twin, because I feel you.
Oh. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm just letting it sink in for a minute.
Oh, I understand. I'm feeding on it too.
Yeah. And I'm trying to feel into yeah, okay, so given all of that journey that, obviously I'm sure there's way more than what you have just said, but what does that bring you to now in your life? Like, what do you feel like why are you here on the planet? Like, what what is spirit moving through as you? Like, you're a manifestation of spirit, like, what's the dance you're...
Yeah, I hear you. First of all, I just wanted to acknowledge you in this moment, because I see that you really get it. I feel you. It's not about words. And to me, the most powerful words are truly in the silence. So when you went into that space just now, it's like, that is the revealing. Yeah, so I would just say, being here now, being present in the moment. And I don't want to share this in the space of it just being a cliche, meaning that it's a new age or new people. Some people say it's a hippie thing.
Yep.
It's for real. Love is for real. It is attainable. It is a knowing. And when you can allow yourself, I feel very strong and believe that, allow yourself to act from your knower as opposed to your believer, it's a completely different walk. When you are believing something, it brings in the spirit of hopefulness or anticipating. But when you know, you actually walk with your back up. You walk, your walk changes.
Yeah. Because
you're now walking in that space. But the gift of that whole space for me, and coming to my space of knowing, is I feel as though that I am here, and I feel as though that we are as beings on this planet, we are here to make known the unknown. But yet the unknown resides in the constant manifestation of making life and being of service to make life better. And so it is, I would say, considered to be the unknown. The known factors are the things that we keep repetitively repeating that I feel as though we repeat it so much that it robs us from the unknown, because we're falling to the cliche of, you know, for instance, sugar diabetes is an inheritance. Like, change your diet. What is inherited is the same eating habits from generations and generations and generations. And I feel as though source is always revealing to us a greater knowing. And it's not about words to try to explain this, but it is that deep feeling of transformation that you and every last one of us on this planet, we all get the exact same message.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, for me, it comes from here.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're tuned in. I mean, this is like an extension cord, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We're plugged in.
Yep.
The
Literally.
only reason why I feel as though the circuits get short is because of the other stories that we allowed to come in. And so that extension cord get bent, it get bent sometime, it get frayed, you know, all you do is twist it back together and that shock is still there, you know what I mean? So,
Yes.
you know, many metaphors of understanding love, but love to me is the ultimate thread. It is the cord that runs through every culture. I heard a quote said when I was young. It said, no matter where you are on the planet, when a baby cries, every woman knows that baby's need.
Yep. Wait,
and it's when a baby cries, every woman knows that baby's need. Yeah, it is a universal language.
Yeah, I can feel it in my body. Yep.
Yes. And you can drop in that moment and teach it whatever you want. But if you teach it for them to know and to be and to allow them, whereas opposed we're always trying to control the whole process, which is given to us naturally, but we're so far removed naturally that we are so conditioned to bring in a lot of, not that all of this isn't real, the lamp, the couch, the chair, but this is all temporary, you know. But love will be, has been, always will be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I told you, and I've said on this symposium before, I was born in Thailand, grew up in Bangladesh, Pakistan, Kenya, and then in Arlington, Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C. And I was a social worker. I went to college in Florida, graduate school in Massachusetts. I was a social worker in rural New Hampshire, Boston, inner city DC, and then California. And anyway, so like, you know, how many cultures have I been like deeply, deeply, deeply immersed in? A whole heck of a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, right. Like, what's the common denominator? Love. Love and fear. Fear too. But like the fear is the need for love. So yeah, and do I need to speak people's language to feel it or know it? Absolutely not. No way. Yeah.
Yeah, I recall quote unquote working with, I changed the language for myself. I say youth at risk. When working with them, I'll call it youth with the lack of love and attention.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, you know, because that's what was denied. So therefore, they act out.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's just the law of nature. And if that nurturing isn't there, they're going to get it the best way they know how, because we all crave, I don't care who you are, even if you look at the Charles Mansons of the world, we all crave to be loved. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the line, something got broken.
Yeah. Well, and I said this, I can't remember if I've said this in another video somewhere in the symposium, but anyway, I'll say it again if I have. You know, for a whole bunch of years, I worked with, I did mental health assessments for child welfare services. So I was like doing mental health assessments on the kids and the parents who were involved somehow, like either the children had been removed from the parents or they were at risk of being removed, whatever, somewhere along those lines. And so anyway, I did that kind of work for a huge number of years in inner city DC and then also in California. And I can count on less than one hand any parents who I could see did not love their kids and did not want their kids. You know, like maybe I can think of 2 or 3, like maybe 2 dads, and like I can think of maybe 1 mom, but they were either like so checked out or an actual sociopath or psychopath, you know, like for real, like they had no empathy. And that is out of thousands and thousands of parents who had seriously messed up. I mean, definitely messed up, like big time messed up. But the love was intense still, regardless, you know, and the love of the kids toward the parents was just as intense. I know I can think of one set of siblings in all that time who didn't want to be with their parents. One set. And this is like kids whose parents had done pretty horrific things, you know, some of them. So the love is just yeah.
And then when we look at those who did not want their children or who were psychopathic, the question is, what happened to them?
Right. What's that?
You know what I mean? You know, like what is their story as a child? What neglect did they have? Because we get to repeat, you know, we get to repeat and to share on a majority that which we have been taught. You know?
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like racism. You don't grow up being a racist. You're not born, I put it that way, a racist. It's what is taught you. Yeah.
Well, that kind of segues a little bit to, I know that you have a project on your YouTube channel of interviewing dads or do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I feel as though at times when it comes down to parenting, a lot of recognition goes into moms. And moms are pretty good, I've learned, in expressing their emotions, where society has trained men, you know, football player, go out there and kill him, you know, or come on, you know, you pussy, you know, you got to be tough, you got to be wrong, you know, and, you know, strong, and so that gets blocked. And then if you act a certain way, quote unquote, people will say soft, or, you know, you're called a sissy, or, you know. And so I feel as though society has conditioned men to block those emotions. So I decided to do Talk to Me Dad, to go after questions. And again, it's not my doing. It's like a guidance. I ask Spirit to guide my lips to help men to reshare in that particular space whatever question that's coming through me, to ask them. So Talk to Me Dad is not a rehearsed thing. These are some fathers whom I've seen in this community and on the East Coast, or friends that would come visit. I say, hey, would you mind if I interview you? You know, I see you as a father. And what I love about it is multicultural and completely different backgrounds. And I feel as though Spirit allowed me to go after the heart of the matter, to allow them to express. I must admit, I've stepped away in tears. I've had to end one interview a little earlier because I had what you call epitome. Is that the right word? An epiphany. Epiphany, yes. I had one, and while interviewing, and like I just told the guy right there, you know what? I need to stop here. Yeah. Because it took me back, and I didn't realize I had a blind spot. You know, we all do, but he really shined the light on something, you know. So I give thanks for that particular podcast, because it has me getting some feedback and and watching men, really desiring, like afterwards, to go, man, I never thought about that, or whoa, I got to really stop to think about that because no one has ever asked me that question before. So it's good to see the mind get befuddled. Then all of a sudden they home in on, and next thing you know, this song is being sung, of their heart, and they're going in there. And so I really, really appreciate it. So yeah, Talk to Me, Dad is on YouTube. I have 6 interviews on there now, and get ready to pick up on the second half of it. And so there'll be some more coming out.
That is awesome. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I know that you also teach African dance. Is that right?
Yes, I must admit that is one of my true drugs.
That's a good drug.
Yes, that's where I allow the drums to open up the portals, and I get to peep in the door. And the next thing I know, I'm fully in. And so teaching is a whole nother experience because I get to open up those portals to others. And I've taught for many years, but coming out of COVID shut me down for the 2 years. And so getting back into it, Spirit told me to not teach without acknowledging those whose shoulders you stand on. And so we go into a very prayerful moment in the beginning, and I can just feel like the whole ancestral lineage of not just drummers, but dancers and artisans are coming through, and so outside of the people who are on the floor that I'm teaching, I feel like I got this whole entourage of people who are observing me, making sure I get it right, or allowing me to just stumble into more of it and to open up this door. And so it's like, wow, this is interesting. So I get to dance and get to share, in that realm. But yeah, it's truly, I must say, it's truly one of my true drugs of choice.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And I'm like feeling into it, and I don't want to be projecting anything onto you, and I'm like hesitating to say this, but I think I'm supposed to say it. Like,
say it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about like if you have any feelings about, okay, I'll just tell you what I'm feeling as I'm.
Please do.
Like me sitting here as a white person talking about this, I feel like it's a little bit not my place, but I'll just say it. You correct me if I'm misfeeling it, but it's like when I feel you feeling into that, your ancestors there, and like you're like becoming the portal, and it's like life is just opening back up through you as you, and like ancestors cheering you on, that kind of a thing. What I feel, and again, here's where you correct me if I'm wrong, I think, of course, about all the ancestral trauma that, anybody on this planet has, but in particular, people of descent on this continent, and like, I just feel like layers of maybe that trauma just kind of getting cleared. I don't know if that's any part of your experience.
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking that question. One of my mentors, again, physically did not physically meet him or know him, knew him. One of my mentors who I had great admiration for was Michael Jackson. That soul, to me, visiting in this planet, was one who immersed himself, and disappointingly with the misrepresentation. However, when you watch this person, you see one person talk one way, but when that door opened, it was a whole nother door. And so there was a freedom that I saw in that particular being. So to answer your questions, Give me that question one more time. I want to make sure I'm responding well.
Um, I'm curious if you feel like as you're connecting in that way with your ancestors and with the African dances, if you have any feelings about the ancestral trauma that you happen, like we all carry ancestral trauma.
Oh yeah,
The planet
yeah,
has mega trauma, right? But so
yeah.
for you personally, I'm just wondering if there's any sense of clearing that or working through that or like having that be part of what's going on in that literal dance and the dance of your ancestors with you.
Yeah. Two things. Every moment is a teachable moment,
Mm.
and one living in Baltimore, I put on a production. It's called Congo Square. So this is a little riveting. I was guided to this guy in my years of dancing. He told me about this story. This was a story about enslaved people
About what?
who
Sorry.
enslaved people.
Oh, it's okay.
See, yeah, and the reason why I use the word enslaved is because when you speak of slavery, people say, slaves come from Africa. Like, no, there aren't no slaves on the planet, period. Other people enslave them.
Absolutely.
So these enslaved global majority people were always had to work so many days, every day, you could say, but they was given a day where they had quote unquote respite. Some people said it was a Friday, some say it was a Sunday. I don't know, but they was given a day. But each time they would return back to the quarters, a enslaved person was missing. So the quote unquote overseers and the enslaved catchers had this set up so they was able to catch one, and they asked their slave, how did you know to leave? How did you know where to go? And in this story, eventually they broke this enslaved person down horrifically.
Yeah.
And the slave told them that it was the drum. Because whenever the slaves got together, the enslaved people got together, they all drummed, but they was also sending messages.
Yes.
And so what they did was took every drummer and took all of their drums, put them in a pile, and then they cut off the hands of every drummer.
Holy crap.
And they set them afire in front of everybody.
Oh my God.
So when I was told that story 10 years later, I performed that story on stage. And one of my dear friends, who was a global minority person, was acting as the catcher and it was painful for him to cut off the way that I had it set up. He says, my son was his drum teacher. He said, I can't cut off my teacher's hands.
Oh.
And of course, it didn't happen on stage. It's all theater.
Right.
But in that moment, I saw a transformation in him.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he cried. He sat out in his car. I had to go looking for him. Like, man, we're rehearsing. You're coming in. He said, man, this is deeply disturbing. I'm going to do it, but I'm having a moment here, Oh. So eventually the show went on. It was for me, was one of the most outstanding shows. One time I was in Africa. I performed this dance with my company, and afterwards, an elder came to me and said, where did you learn that step? And I said, well, that particular step came to me in spirit. They said, oh, no. First of all, we haven't danced this dance in 20 years. That step belongs to my grandmother.
Oh.
And I looked at this person like, wow. And there was a heart smile where like, thank goodness I'm on the right track. Yeah. But this person told me, that's my grandmother's feet. Oh. And you came to my village to do this dance to remind us, I said, whoa. And you just get humbled, So I know that they stand there, and I know that they're there, and at the same time, we get to take these dances. I have a lot of friends who are teaching around the world of African descent along with African American. And a lot of the global minority, a lot of even Asian people are taking this dance. And to me, for me, it's like, it's also bringing them into a freedom inside of themselves, but also the spirit of what, not just African dance, but when you're in the arts, it is a release form. This is your moment to step out of quote unquote the norm. But if you have questions about what you just learned, now I can pass on the information and you have a greater respect, not just for my culture, but other cultures around the world.
Absolutely. That's so deeply moving. Like, that's...
Oh, bless you. Yay. Yeah, you're my twin. I feel you.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Much gratitude.
I did another talk with 2 days ago. I recorded this one. I'm going to send to you because I think you might really love it. And everybody watching should definitely watch this one called Regenerative Agency with a man named Jason Engeldow. And he lives in South Africa. He's mixed race South African man. And he does
would they be called the Afrikaners?
Afrikaners are one of... So Afrikaners, okay. So my dad lived in South Africa for 3 years. Anyway, but so Afrikaners are descended from Dutch people, from what I understand, and actually some of my great grandparents lived in the Netherlands. Half of them immigrated to the United States. The other half immigrated to South Africa and became Afrikaners. Not something I'm proud of at all. Extremely not. And that my understanding, okay, I'm not from South Africa, obviously, but my understanding of South Africa is that one section of the white people are Afrikaners. They come from the Netherlands. Another section of white people are British descended. And they're very different culturally. And then obviously Native African people, lots and lots of different tribes of African people, but and then lots of people who immigrated from India. My dad married my Pakistan. So I lived in Pakistan as a child, and I had a nanny there, and my dad married her. The whole other long story. But anyway, she and I were extremely deeply close from the time I was 7 years old. She's like my second mom. And so she lived in Kenya and South Africa with my dad. And there's a huge Indian community in Kenya and South Africa, both. So she was really a big part of that. But anyway, why was I talking about this?
We was talking about Afrikaners. You was telling me about that. I was actually...
The guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I was gonna say is, so his talk is just so moving and so beautiful. And one of the things that he did make me cry on camera in this talk. I think it's the only one I actually cried in.
Wow.
Out of all of these. He's an amazing guy. I think you should connect with him.
Ooh.
Anyway, so part of what he does is he does what he calls social permaculture, which is like taking the idea of agricultural permaculture and making that into a metaphor for how we interact as humans. Yeah, we as a social people are also a system, and we need to start with what he calls zone 0, which is like healing ourselves. And then that extends to zone 1, which is like me and you, or me and the earth, or, like one-on-one kind of thing. This is my understanding. I could be getting this wrong, and then zone 2 is me and the community, like all of us. And then you do this healing, like zone 0, zone 1, zone 2, then back to zone 0. It's like it's like a constant dance, of
yes.
it all goes together. Yeah. And so part of what he does in his work is racial healing in South Africa, which obviously is
Woo!
incredibly needed still.
Woo!
Yeah. And he does men's compassionate listening circles.
Where I have a group here, it's called Men of Light.
What'd you say? Men of Light?
I have a group here that we do. It's called the Men of Light.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we purposely, or my approach with this, three of us, it's two of us, make it very uncomfortable to, to just to get to, I'm not take it back. We don't make it uncomfortable. I have an approach at times that take people out of their comfort zone. That's what I want to say. To get to what it is that whatever's being called when it's my time to facilitate. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'd be so interesting to compare how you guys are holding these spaces.
Yeah, I would love to meet him.
Yeah, you guys should connect.
Yeah.
But anyway, another part of what he does is ancestral healing work also. I mean, it all ties together, right?
Yes.
So, anyway, he and I were having some really, really powerful conversations about his own sense of the trauma in his culture, in his country, in his world, in his own family. And then I was sharing some things about, again, growing up, like my family's very international, but my family has lived in India since 1916. And so again, but I'm white, I'm very, very white. And so it's like, anyway, there's just so many layers of the need to, come back to love. It all comes back to love. And, let go of this stuff that we've been doing to each other forever. Yeah. And I feel like maybe there was another point I had, and it's completely gone. I don't know what it was.
I have a question. So, do you have siblings or children?
I do. I have one biological sister, and I have I have a bunch of step siblings. Two of them are in the United States, and then a whole bunch in Pakistan. And then I have two kids.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Yay! Motherhood.
Yep. And you have kids?
I'm not biological. I was blessed to marry a woman with 4 children when I was 23, and they're all artisans and achieving major accomplishments in the world with the educational field and all of that good stuff. But during that time of my marriage, which I was married for 23 years, just accomplishing a lot. So we're all still very, 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 very close. And they've been blessed to being raised as artisans with my former beloved and I. We've had the pleasure of traveling the world in a lot of different ways. And so that is innate in them. And they, except my youngest daughter, she's like, I'm not leaving Baltimore. I go and travel and go here and there, but this is my home. I'm like, girl, bless you.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
but yeah, they're amazing beings on the planet. They're doing amazing work on the planet. Yeah.
So is there anything else you feel like wants to move through you?
Yeah, I have this one piece that I would love to share, and if you want to discuss it, I'm open to it. But I found this to be a very precious writing. It's very, very short, but it says a whole lot. And it's titled Love. This is what I titled it. But I heard this shared by this beautiful woman by the name of Glenda Green. And she was speaking, and this is what came out of her mouth, and it just pulled my ear. Love. Love is the ultimate paradox. Love is the divine mystery. It cannot be captured, but yet it willingly serves. It is infinitely free, but yet it abides in captivity. It cannot be enforced, and yet it is the basis of all laws. It is the bringer of truth, and yet It never judges. It is the seer of all things, and yet it never condemns. It conquers by surrendering. It rules by lifting up. By its mysterious capacity of paradox, love disintegrates all duality.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yep.
Yeah. So that piece for me, it resonates in so many different awarenesses of the beauty in the consistency. Like it cannot be capped, but yet it abides in captivity. You know what I mean? It's like it's like water. It's just loose. It's everywhere. It's everything. You know. So yeah. So you giving me this blessed opportunity to share my feelings and my perspective on it. I consider this an honor, beyond words, to have the freedom to express and allow Source to guide this process between you and I. And I've been interviewed before, but this has been one of the most favorite interviews I've ever done.
Really?
You know, and this is the first time I've ever been interviewed to actually just talk about love.
Wow.
You know, so I am humbled. Yeah.
Well, I am too. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I pray that this won't be our last time connecting, and I look forward to how Spirit will unfold this in the near future.
Absolutely, definitely. And along those lines, for everyone listening, what would you like if people are feeling like inspired, they want to connect with you, they want to, you know, they want more, like what do you want to invite people? How do you want people to connect with you? What is there anything particular you want to invite people to?
Yeah, well, definitely please do check out Talk to Me Dad. There's some other things I'm working on. I'm working on this project. It's called Journey to Self. And it's going to be an interesting process. It's in the making. And I'm working on this thing. It's also called the Senseless Retreat, where you eliminate sight, smell, hearing, and fasting. And each day you switch senses. So that's another awakening. But with all that being said, you can contact me at my Gmail, Kauna, Kauna, Mujamal, Mujamal, at gmail.com. I love traveling, so I love to go abroad to teach. I live in a very small town in terms of teaching traditional West African dance, but all things that I do is inclusive. I do storytelling. I love working with kids. I love inspiring and encouraging. I do creative writing. So anywhere in the arts field, theatrical field, you know. But yeah, reach me on that Gmail, and if it resonates with you, if it's all about being in alignment, I am open to connect.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm going to put your email with this video. It'll be all right here for people.
Yay. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to meeting Jason. Is his name?
Jason?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that'll be a great connection.
Yay.
I mean, there's so many other amazing people.
I'm sure. I gotta watch some of your other podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Are you on one of the podcasts? Are you doing a podcast yourself? Are you being interviewed?
No.
I like to turn it around and do you, and let the people hear your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. Yes. I feel that calling too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and no, in this space, it's really me being the holder of the temple.
Yes.
You know? And getting to just witness you. But thank you for naming that also. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I am so honored and grateful. Such a blessing.